Well, hello, everybody. We're live. Probably when you watch this, though, it'll be on tape, but we're live right now. F1 Chase for the title. I'm your intrepid host, JB, back for one more ride here as we go through the last race of this Grand Prix season. That was 17 races. We finished up in Abu Dhabi. And let me introduce my compadres. Chase, say hello.
Hello.
Steve Marino.
Hello.
And last but certainly not least, Dr. Bill.
Good morning, everybody.
Well, I don't know about you guys, but the race ended about, I guess, half an hour, 45 minutes ago. My pulse is just starting to get back to normal after the exciting race that we just saw, huh? Was that unbelievable? Wow.
Yeah.
Who would have guessed? Daniel Kvyat wins in a go away. I mean, by 13 seconds. Who saw that coming? Not me, I'll tell you. Just being sarcastic, folks. If you watch this race, it was tough to stay awake, except for Verstappen winning. In my opinion, this was a dud of a way to end a great season. But again, I'm just a host, so my opinion doesn't matter. Chase, what do you think? Overall, give a quick overall impression.
I agree. I think, Verstappen was a highlight, and then unfortunately Perez going out was another highlight very early on in the race. But
I think we should spend a little time on him when we later in the show because I don't think he helped himself any, unfortunately, for no fault of his own. But that guy, I think Steve said it early on, if he didn't have bad luck, he'd have no luck at all. That guy. Steve, what do you think?
Yeah, it wasn't really exciting, but you had Verstappen, and that at least didn't make me angry.
We'll always have Verstappen, Dr. Bill.
Yeah, it was good. I mean, if it had been, there were a lot of, despite it being a boring race, which I do agree with, there was still a lot of underlying questions that I was trying to figure out as far as why was Mercedes so poor in their attempt to even not even close the gap. The gap just kept getting worse.
Yeah.
There were just a number of things. Like, okay, what's going on with this team / car?
Yeah. Before we get into more particulars, Chase, why don't you give us a quick preview of this Abu Dhabi circuit, because it certainly didn't lend itself to passing and action, which I thought was such a disappointment after 2 weeks in Bahrain. But go ahead.
Yeah, so Abu Dhabi first came in 2009, and I believe it has around 21, 22 corners. But the race is 55 laps long and is home to 2 DRS zones, which are both very good for overtaking. I think that was the main overtaking spot.
Right.
But it is a lot of 90-degree turns, which you think would be good, but just really wasn't. I don't know.
Yeah, so why don't we talk a little bit about the starting grid, right? Verstappen was on pole, and we had Bottas was second, and Lewis was third, right? Starting,
Yep.
I think.
Yep.
So, we had the usual suspects up there, but it didn't really seem like when we sort of took off here, it was really sort of business as usual. Pre-race, I guess there wasn't really a lot. Once they knew that Lewis was coming back, there wasn't really a lot of buzz about anybody in particular, right? I didn't think. I guess more mystery about Perez, perhaps, but not a lot of talk about really a lot of exciting off-season stuff yet, right?
Yeah, I think the focus primarily was on the drivers for whom this was going to be their last race, and I think they were kind of paying homage to, the Magnusens, Perez. The people that as of right now don't have a seat for next year, and some of the internal switches with Vettel, and trying to theorize how these individuals were going to race their last race for their given teams, because I think to some extent next year you kind of shake up the ball, and a lot of people are on new teams, so right. I think that was pretty much the emphasis of the pre-race chatter.
We had a pre-race feature with Lando Norris and Carlos Sainz that they seemed like good buddies. They were competing back and forth. So, yeah, there is a little bit of that's going to switch up and change teammates to competitors now. So, we'll have to see how that goes. But, so we started the race. Anything exciting happened in the first lap, Dr. Bill?
No. Well, the only thing I really found interesting, it was when they showed the starting grid. the degree, the angulation that Verstappen had on from his starting position. He was really, I don't remember seeing, even though somebody wants to go that way, I don't remember seeing a car angled that much at the start. But Bottas had another spectacular start. I don't know. It's just, I don't know.
You ought to give that guy a head start, actually, to be fair to the rest
It's
of the
like,
field.
what the heck,
But his response is like the person at the light changes from red to green, and you're sitting there, hello, it doesn't get any greener. Hello.
Yeah, it's just, I don't know. So he, but he was able to hold off Lewis. So then we just settled down to whatever, 55 laps of unbridled excitement.
Jeez. And Verstappen even had his car over the yellow line, which they pointed out was legal as long as, I guess, it wasn't full.
As long as you didn't move.
Right.
So the race got off to reasonable start, and then I think about lap 10, I believe there was a virtual safety car when that's when Perez went out, I think, right? And that's when everybody came in and they changed tires early, which sort of took some of the excitement out of the tire strategy, right? So I think everybody came in but Ferrari, which I'm not sure was the right decision, right, Chase?
Yeah, them and Daniel Ricciardo, who started on hards.
Right. So really, I don't think was that the only safety car? I think it was, wasn't it, Dr. Bill?
I think so. Yeah. One thing I was trying to figure out though, regarding just getting back to the starting grid was Perez was in the back. He was starting 17th or something. And I was trying to remember, why did he get 19th? Why did he get bumped back that far?
I think he might have, because usually when you have a grid placement penalty, that's because you're like fitting new parts onto a car.
Yeah, that's what I figured, but I couldn't remember the particulars as to why that was.
Okay.
Yeah, I know you're right. There was something to do with that.
Proof not worth it, because obviously it did not help the engine.
Yeah.
Although I don't think what they probably switched would have had an impact on it, because it sounded like it was something to do with transmission, but still, it's just unfortunate.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's unfortunate on a lot of levels, because from a constructor standpoint, for Racing Point, it had huge implications. And then just to see the highs and lows for Perez from winning last week to now, being DNF, what ends up being the only driver not to finish the race. It's got to be a very bittersweet way to end your F1 career, as it looks like right now, with that kind of, and you saw the level of frustration with him when he got out of the car and when he was in the car. And it's just, it's sad to see. You would much rather have him win end on the high like last week than end on a low of this week.
Yeah, they even talked to Kevin Magnussen, who looks like his Formula One career is over. He's going to sign him with IndyCar and Chip Ganassi. And well, would you like to come back to Formula One? He's like, he was very honest. He said, no, I'm not sure I do, because I want to start winning again and being with a winning team. And I'm afraid that if I come back, if I'm not on a team that can contend, that's like, as much as I love racing in Formula One, it's not fun for me. I want to get back to having a chance to win each race. So I thought that was pretty, that's probably, he's out anyway, so I'm not sure he's hurting his chances, but I thought it's kind of nice to hear a guy be like, yeah, no, I want to win. Even if it's in a lesser division, I want to win. Winning
is winning.
Right.
Yeah.
Did anybody, did Russell have any interviews? I didn't pick up on anything from him. And the reason why I asked that is because his performance today through much of the race was at the lower end of the spectrum. And I'm just curious to get his feedback going back into the Williams car, and kind of getting back into where he's been all season, which has been relatively, bottom of the field, what his reaction is going from obviously a fine-tuned top tier machine to a Williams car, and what his reaction is.
Well, I saw a story, he was interviewed this week, and basically the headline was, Russell admits to strange feeling after missing out on Mercedes drive, but determined to do Williams duty. So duty, yeah, quote, and that's in quotes, duty. So
duty. So not practice car.
Right. Sounds like I had a dalliance with this person, and it was a lot of fun. But I got to go back to my family. It's like, okay, thank you. The family feels great when you talk about them that way. I can go back to the ball and chain. All right, we could be out here having a lot of fun, but I got to go back to the ball and chain. Sorry, George. Sorry, it's such drudgery to be 22 years old and racing in Formula One. But yeah, I understand. You can understand that. He had a taste of what it's like to be in the car, and it just, unfortunately, for reasons we talked about last week, just went awry for him. But yeah, he didn't seem like he was inspired. But how about Mr. Albon finishing Quattro?
Yeah.
Big for him, right? It's going to make the Red Bull's decision a lot harder about dropping him, I think.
Yeah, he's finished off the season really strong, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's been consistent.
So I want to bring this up. I saw a YouTube video recently, and I don't know the credits, but it was an interview from, I think, I think it was Hakkinen.
Yes.
But it was about Red Bull and its second driver problem. And it was saying that the team is so focused around Max Verstappen, the car's fitted for Max Verstappen, the team is like fitting parts for Max Verstappen, that they're like, the car setup doesn't work for anyone else. It's just him. And like, he's getting all the attention. He's like the saving grace of Red Bull, and he's also like the downfall of Red Bull at the same time. That seems to be the main thing.
I wonder though, the cars, is there a significant difference between the two cars? Because I feel like they can make adjustments to the car, but maybe it's not significant enough to make a difference for the second driver.
Looking at like the two cars, the Red Bull car is a lot more stubbier. So it has like a sharper like nose, and then it's got like a bump up, and then it's flat, and it's overall a lot shorter than like a Mercedes car, which is a lot longer and like less of an angle and more sleek. They have some meanings, but I don't really know the aerodynamic side of it.
Yeah.
Well, it's certainly every second driver feels that all the good stuff goes to the number one driver, and when their personalities are bigger than life, it does tend to suck the oxygen out of the room, because all the team, all the people on the team want to please the number one guy, and it's just, it's tough to be number two, and particularly if you're a talented number two. If you're mediocre, then I guess it's like you're just happy to be around greatness. But if you think you're pretty good yourself, that's the tough part, and that's what the competitive balance with these teams is so difficult, because you want to have the best team you can put out there. But sometimes the best teams are not made of all-stars, despite the NBA. Historically, teams of all-stars rarely beat a championship team that's got all its parts in the right places. So, but I thought it was also interesting that, Leclerc and Vettel had quite a battle today, and Vettel wasn't really given any quarter, and, Leclerc wasn't too happy about that. And fortunately, there was an inspirational team leadership meeting via Zoom from Bonatti, who is back in Moderna and not there yet again for another race with Ferrari. So,
but this time he didn't. The reverse jinx didn't work in that he wasn't there, but they didn't do well.
That's true.
And I heard that the CEO of Ferrari, I think the CEO of Ferrari in and of itself stepped down like immediately yesterday. Just because,
really? I didn't see that. Really?
Because of COVID, he had COVID. He was in the hospital, and it sounds like he was okay, relatively speaking. But he basically got out and was like, okay, I'm done with all this other crap.
So, anything in the race results that we should talk about? Anything that you want to particularly point out? Give a pat on the back to anybody because of their performance today?
I would say not from an individual standpoint. I would say there isn't really anything too outstanding. And again, you get a question: is it the course that contributes to that? But from an individual standpoint, I saw nothing other than Max Verstappen doing everything right.
Yeah, he basically, he was never even challenged today.
Yeah. Nothing
it was a
at all.
drive, really. It really was.
Yeah.
So, okay. All right. Let's see if we
I
can
mean,
get
you can feel this palpable excitement.
after last week, which was, we had so much to talk about. There was so many questions and things and possibilities. And today it just seemed like, oh God, this is just like, what a crappy way to end with such a great season accomplishment. Just the fact that they had this season. I mean, we should talk about that a little bit, but let's not slough over what we just witnessed. 17 races in a year of a global pandemic, when lesser sports are closing down and not even trying to play. This Formula One, I heard somewhere where there's a number of something like 2,000 people that in any given race weekend are involved with Formula One directly, a part of a group that has to travel, logistics, going to different countries and different requirements, and all of these teams and all these people. And to do this, and your top guy even gets COVID at the end of the season, and you still pop somebody else in the car. Let's go. And you actually probably get a huge PR from that actually happening, even if it wasn't by design. It just, I mean, you gotta marvel at this, right, Dr. Bill?
Oh yeah. I mean, what's amazing is, like you said, the contrast between this sport and, let's say, some sports in the United States. Sports in the United States, the United States is a big country, fine. And they travel around, but there, especially I'm thinking of the NFL, is that their season has been really in disarray. Every week you don't know who's playing, what week they're playing. You put on the television on a Wednesday night and there's an NFL game on, blah, blah, blah. But Formula One has traveled around the world with all these people involved. I heard at the end of the broadcast they did 78,000 tests, which you got the money, you'll get a test. You don't have the money, you don't get a test. I know that very well from how things are in New Hampshire. But despite that, I think they had a 0.1% positivity rate. They had 78 people test positive over this long span of time. I mean, it's just not surprising, the engineering heavy aspects of Formula One, that they were able to figure it out and get it done.
Yeah, I think it's just an incredible accomplishment. I mean, just really, it's because it's not even just like, it's not even like it's just athletes involved. We're concerned about these people on the court being able to play. So you've got a finite group of individuals, and certainly in basketball, it's 7, 8 guys a team that really matter, and everybody else is not really. But in Formula One, it's not just the drivers, of course. All of these people that are on these teams that support the cars and have to do all this work, the crews and the engineers and the computer technicians, all those people, they all have to be able to play, so to speak. Otherwise, the team can't function. And they all were doing it beautifully without, getting hit with COVID. I think it's marvelous.
Yeah, it really is.
And Angela.
What's that?
And Angela.
Oh,
I was looking for her today because I'm like, I didn't really see her much. I'm like, where the heck is she? I was
this
watching
is the first race where I just not seen her.
She was there.
She was.
She was.
I saw her in the paddock in the pre-race.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, because I was wondering. I was like, actually, I was going to go check her Instagram feed. I'm like, is she like, on the injured reserve or something like that? But yeah, she was there.
Yeah.
Interesting.
But, and I also saw somebody make a comment about something about next year, and they said something like, or maybe it was Ricardo. He said something like, "Well, we could have done something, and we just have to hope that in 2022, when we, things are going to be changed up. Hopefully, maybe this will make for more competitive racing." I'm thinking, why? I mean, it's true, but why would you say, first of all, after just finishing this dud of a race, and then you say, "Don't worry, folks, 2 years, it's going to be exciting again." You know what I mean? It's like, don't say that out loud. It may be true, but don't say that out loud. I don't think. Right. Steve, right? From a marketing perspective, that doesn't make me feel warm and fuzzy about a big change for next year.
No, I know. And Magnuson kind of alluded to it as well in his commentary, where, he saw this year was the last year of the fast cars, and every year after this year, the cars are going to get a little bit slower and a little bit slower. So,
right.
Yeah, it isn't. But, you even listen to Hamilton today, and, I think he's looking for, the opportunity for cars to be more competitive within the race. And, listen, that's what everybody wants. But you do have to be careful. And some, like Ferrari's actions, Bonato, you got to be careful in how you approach it, because the perception is the reality. So.
Yeah, I think, I mean, it's too bad that it's almost like you got to go through another season of this. Does that mean, so if Lewis comes back, do we just going to pencil him in now because really nothing ostensibly is going to change? That's kind of tough. I mean, it really is. That marketing message is not very interesting, I don't think so.
Not compelling.
It really isn't,
No. So is this 2021? Are we just marking time?
Yeah, that's what it feels like.
Until 2022.
Yeah, absolutely feels like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. You bring Mick Schumacher up. That's an interesting story, but you don't have an American driver in Formula One.
Yeah, but you're putting Mick Schumacher in a Haas. I mean,
Yeah, true. He's going to be driving a Chevy compared to what he could be driving.
Yeah. I mean, that's going to be the hard thing. If we had him going to a competitive team like a McLaren or Racing Point, that sounds exciting.
Right.
But going to Haas, going to Williams,
I think it's going to be like the next George Russell type situation.
Yeah, look, I mean, you put a good piece of machinery under somebody and they can perform. But, if they're stuck with an inferior car.
Yeah. Well, then also, did you see that, this week that Alonso was all over the place, and Alonso had his McLaren from 2005,
yeah,
and his V10. And, man, does that thing sound different? I mean,
yeah.
that's what I remember when we went up, Steve. Remember when we went up to
Montreal.
Up in Montreal, and they had one lap qualifying that. Remember how loud just one freaking car was on that course?
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
Yeah. I mean, it really was. I mean, so no matter what they do to the cars, I think that's what a lot of people are saying is figure out a way to get the engine noise to sound like it's a bigger engine, because people really miss that on Formula One.
Yeah, that's a visceral. That just you hear that, and just viscerally, your reaction is a smile on your face just to hear that noise.
Right. So, we got driver of the day. Any interest in that? I mean, I guess you make it Verstappen, but who cares, really? I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I might even say Albon. I mean, he almost. I mean,
given like another 2 or 3 laps, I think he would have caught up to Hamilton.
Right.
Hamilton was fading.
He was like 1.5 seconds behind Hamilton at the end of the race. So I feel like one more lap and he would have been like DRS range.
But I was watching that and I'm thinking to myself, why didn't you do this 20 laps ago? I mean, maybe he couldn't have because of the tire degradation and things like that. But, it just, and it seemed like they were talking about the front, and then they were talking to the middle and the back of the pack. And like Albon it's almost like he was a ghost, as if I don't even know how many times his name was mentioned in the race, except at the end.
He at some point had like a 28-second gap behind him and like a 13-second gap in front of him. And he was just like in the middle of no man's land.
Right. That's what it seemed like.
It's got to be hard to race like that because you have nothing to judge. It's just a good lap off of besides what your engineer is telling you.
Right. Right.
It looks like Norris was like 40 seconds behind him.
Yeah.
I mean, that's for between 4th and 5th. So yeah, you're right. That's kind of not the easiest place to be. So
I'm curious about Kvyat. I was watching him too, because supposedly he's kind of on the chopping block. And I was like, first of all, I don't know why he's really on the chopping block, but I'm like, he was okay. He was hanging in there. He wasn't getting blown out, but he was keeping close to. He finished 11th. Gasly finished 8th, so it wasn't like a huge gap between the two of them. So
I think the reason is because Red Bull signed a new driver, like something Tsunoda or something like that. I might be messing that up. Yeah,
Red Bull or AlphaTauri.
Oh, well, it was a video on the Red Bull channel, but he probably is going to AlphaTauri.
Okay.
So Takanami, the Japanese guy?
Yuki Tsunoda.
Oh, so I thought, okay.
So is he going to take Kvyat's seat?
That's what it sounds like.
Yeah.
If not, it might be something like I don't know, like a Perez possibly. But
that's the other thing. I'm wondering what's the timeline for Perez? Like what?
I think this is it. I think he showed his potential like kind of too late into the season, and everyone had kind of already signed at that point.
Lost the
Yeah,
window.
Christian Horner, they were grilling him like crazy, like, oh, well, Alba, and he's like, well, we're gonna be making a decision. Like, when are you gonna make a decision? Well, you'll find out as soon as we make the decision.
Mm.
So it did not sound encouraging from what he was saying about Perez. He was trying to be diplomatic, but it didn't sound like he.
I think they need to stick with a driver because they can't keep switching out drivers because then they have none to develop with. You know.
Yeah, as it is, like we were saying before, as it is, I feel like their setup right now is not for long-term success unless you're Max Verstappen. And with this model, they've kind of been okay. Albon's been able to adapt and hasn't imploded, and he's had rough spots earlier in the season, but has kind of gotten his head in gear to be able to deal with it and improve. So I agree with you. I don't think they should really change anything.
Well, then you see this young Russian guy that's going to be racing for Haas next year, right? He's involved with this disgusting display with a female, and which, in most cases it would be, you're out of here. You're fired. You can't represent my organization with this kind of behavior. Forget it. Get out. The ink's not even dry in your contract, and this is crap you're doing.
So that was it. That was a current video. I thought that was something maybe from like the past. So this was currently done. This is fresh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they're like, well, it's an eternal matter. Like, no, it's not. It's on. It was up on Facebook or Instagram or whatever. And then you find out, well, his daddy is a Russian oligarch and worth billions, and he brings lots of dinero to the team. And I'm thinking, Haas is an American team, and they're bringing in a Russian driver.
Oh, I know where we're going.
And behaves like this. And it's like, first of all, how does Formula One stand by and say, well, we're just letting Haas handle it? You can't.
They had to step in. They had to be the ones to make it significant, and they didn't.
Right, they haven't.
Stood back.
It's almost like, oh, well, boys will be boys. It's like, no, this young man is driving for your team now, behaving like this. It's like on video. There's no, he said, she said here. This is, the world can see that this guy is a moron. And how do you bring that guy on your team?
He's a 21-year-old billionaire. I mean, I completely hear you, Peter. I completely hear you. He is in a league that this should not even be, he shouldn't even be put in those circumstances where he's out with a bunch of young kids driving around. But you know what? You're a 21-year-old kid who's never had to account for anything from an action standpoint. He does something stupid. His big error, yes, it was doing it, but it was putting it on his Instagram account.
Well, that's my point. That shows how clueless this kid is.
Yeah.
Clueless. Yeah. Because after no regret or concern that, oh my God, did I do something awful? And at least be able to say, well, at least I apologize to the young woman and try to make amends. But like, I don't think anything's wrong with it. I'm going to even post it. I think it's funny. What the hell?
Yeah.
I don't know. Very disappointing. I mean, very disappointing because this, in terms of marketing, it's like, this is the wrong message to send. Hey, we're young. We're Formula One drivers. I'm rich. Hey, this is what we can do.
Who's he going to be with in Haas next year? I can't remember. Who's going to be his teammate at Haas?
Schumacher.
Oh, okay.
No, I thought Schumacher's going to. Oh yeah, that's right.
Schumacher and Mazepin. They're going to really rookie lineup.
Right. The reason I ask is that sometimes you have a young idiot like this guy come in, but you pair him with somebody like a Vettel or somebody like that who basically says, "Here's the deal. Here's what you got to do. Knock off the crap you've been doing."
Oh, there's a great comparison because Schumacher is also 21 years old. And do you think there's any chance in hell that you'd ever catch Mick Schumacher doing something like that? I don't think so. Not with the family he grew up in.
Brought up in F1.
Right.
He knows the culture. He knows the what's right and what's wrong. He's not lived in with privilege his entire life. Yeah. Well, he has, but
he has.
He's been surrounded.
His father was a very disciplined guy his whole life, and and very much earn your spot and hard work and all that stuff. And as by all accounts, his mother's a great person as well. And I can't picture him coming and going, particularly because he recognizes he's got the Schumacher name and he wants to make it on his own, but he realizes he's carrying his father's legacy. So he's not going to act like a moron. Like, and for the most part, we talk about sports. You very rarely hear something about these Formula One drivers doing idiotic things like this. They're not out racing around because they're race car drivers. You ever hear about a DUI with one of these guys or an assault or something? I mean, they seem to be very disciplined people. They have to be in the sport, right? So anyway, I know it's just like it just bothered me because I'm thinking the kid's not even done anything yet in the sport, and already he's basically thinking, well, I can do what I want to do.
Right.
And that's taking a seat away from people that probably deserve it more.
Yeah, Perez, right? Perez is sitting there, and by all accounts, he works hard.
Like Perez aside, there are other F2 drivers that like they want to get into F1.
Right.
And now the main barrier is just money.
Right.
Right. Well, this is the issue with the sport, right? This is one of the reasons why they're trying to, I mean, it's the difference between whether they spend $400 million or whether they spend $250 million, but it's, I guess, a significant cutback. But it is a sport that you have to have deep pockets and you have to be able to, spend where you need to spend. But you also think like you should get what you pay for. And it's, and these seats are so hard to come by.
But yeah,
do you want a guy waltzing in that this thinks, well, but I guess he believes with daddy's money, right? He could
Haas is getting what they paid for. They're going to get the infusion of cash they need. It's just going to come with the baggage of this guy, and they got to suck it up because you know what? They need the money, and it's what's going to allow them to survive in F1.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's why it's a bigger fault on F1 for not taking a firmer stance. Having the discipline.
Yeah, it's just a horrible place to be. Speaking of constructors, then let's take a look at the standings. Mercedes obviously clearly up top by big numbers. I think they got 523 points, and then Red Bull finished a solid second, 319. McLaren 202 and third.
That was a big thing today's race.
It was. That was the main thing. Yeah, that was the main thing. And when Perez went out, that was like, okay.
Yeah, 7 points over Racing Point.
Yeah,
right?
McLaren just basically really had a good move right there, which
is good for them. They deserve something positive.
Yeah, and apparently they got a big infusion of capital. McLaren Automotive has I don't know the particulars, but redevoted a bunch of money to the racing team.
Yeah, I heard too that they said on the air that they said, just to put the constructors thing in perspective. I think they said the difference between finishing third and fifth in the Constructors' Championship is £6 million.
Yeah,
which I think is like $9 million.
Yeah,
I'm not mistaken.
Yeah,
that's a lot of dough.
Especially the limit cap, or like the spend cap. I think now that McLaren's going to have a ton of money to spend, or I guess fill up the cap. And have a Mercedes-powered engine, I think they could definitely be a top contender.
Yeah, I mean, it certainly looks like it, and they got up-and-coming driver, and so I think that's good for them. So
is McLaren going to a Mercedes engine next year?
Well, I know they were supposed to do it for like the new car, but I don't know if the contract means that they have to do it next year, or if they can like engine freeze.
Yeah, I don't know.
Because they're not still on Honda, are they? McLaren?
No, they're on Renault.
No.
Yeah.
And it was interesting, all this talk, and it was actually, I thought it was good on the broadcasters to explain all what an MGUK is, because they, at the beginning of the race, Mercedes is, all concerned about that. And strangely enough, Perez driving a Mercedes engine, his problem was not apparently the MGUK. It was I think a transmission problem, but it was, and that's what I was watching the race. I'm thinking, well, as far as Mercedes itself goes, are they not performing well because they're babying their engine because of the MGUK? Or you've heard other times in the year where they don't perform well when they're in the pack, when they're behind. They only perform well when they're in the front. But I thought it was good of the broadcasters to actually, explain what this thing actually does that they're concerned about.
I think the MGUK was the reason that they lost today. I think if it was fine, I think they could have just kind of caught up and just kept going. Because we've seen it before, like Monza, when Hamilton goes to last. He can.
Right. But do you think that's just some wear and tear on the MGUK, that it was just getting old as the season was wearing on?
What they were saying is that they had to like turn down the amount of power it could return after being recycled, so that it didn't like pretty much ruin itself.
Right. And actually, as far as radio chatter, there wasn't anything super interesting other than, and I just thought of it when you said turning the engine down. When Max, he's got like 10 laps left, he's like, "Oh, okay, you can turn the engine down now." It's like, that was pretty funny, which always amazes me how they can titrate that power. It's I think that's kind of interesting.
All the steering wheels are amazing.
Yeah, but I thought the engineers on the pit lane do it.
They do. They probably do that, but I'm like, just in general, like all the buttons and knobs. It's really cool.
Yep. They're doing 150 miles an hour, and they're just, as they're turning, they're fiddling with some little dial that's the size of a nickel. It's crazy.
It's not to text and drive.
Yeah.
So the interesting thing, so obviously Racing Point and McLaren was a big swing today, which had a huge financial impact. But the other interesting thing, which I don't know if anything is going to come of it, but the only incident that took place that went under review was the incident with Sainz and Stroll and the slowing up in the pit lane.
Right.
And initially they were going to put it under review to potentially dock 5 seconds off his time. And then they said they would wait until after the race. Now, after the race, it didn't really have a huge implication. But what I find interesting is that if you look at the final individual standings, Sainz and Albon are tied at 105 points.
Right.
So if they were to enforce that penalty, would that in any way impact the points that Sainz got? Because then Albon would go into 6th place.
I think there's even more than just that, because you saw on Stroll's pit release, he was caught off by Sainz like coming out. I think, and that's because he didn't get held back through the double stack and he slowed everyone else down. If he didn't do that, I think Stroll would have come out first, and I think that could have really changed the outcome of the race.
Yeah, but you know what? After the race, they interviewed Stroll and they brought it up to him, and Stroll said, "You know, it really wouldn't have made a difference because we just didn't have it today." So I mean, he took Sainz off the hook. He really did. He's like, you know, we wouldn't have, because in the race, the team principal of
Otmar.
Omar. They interviewed. Got a great voice, that guy. He basically was like, "Oh, you know, it cost us." But then Stroll after the race was like, "No, as it turns out, it wouldn't have mattered because," and he didn't. It wasn't like he was pressing after that and whatever. So, but you're right. That would have been a hard way to, because it was so close that,
But I'm looking at the standings, the times for the race. In Sainz has a time of
65.
Right. So if they give him a 5-second penalty, doesn't make any difference. He doesn't he doesn't change his place.
Right.
They give him a 10-second, it will, and that would make a difference. But I don't know.
Yeah, you're right. There's an 8.
Your top in his final standings: Hamilton's number 1, Bottas 2, Verstappen 3, Perez finishes 4th in the overall championship, followed by Ricciardo, Sainz, and Albon. So
it seems that the only people that beat Albon were like pretty much former Red Bull drivers, and then like Perez.
Right. I mean, every time you spin a dial here, it keeps coming back pointing to Perez. Like this guy should not be out of Formula One.
Right.
It's hard to understand. It really is. It continues to be a mystery, but who knows what's going to happen. So let's have a little fun as we close out the regular year here with Formula One, and we move into the off season, which is not really off because we're going to be testing soon, and it'll be the drivers' market still with people yet to be signed. But we had our own little competition here in Nostradamus, and I'm not sure what the final point tally was. Does anybody know for sure? I mean, I surmised it, but I don't know if it's actual.
We can do some auditing of that. I know there's probably about 15 sheets to go through.
Oh, All right. Well, let me tell you what I came up with, and you guys tell me if it sounds fair. Because in our audience, I know I get texts and I get instant messages and all that stuff. Like, what are the standings? I'm like, well, Bottas is still hanging on the second. No. Nostradamus.
That's what they want to know.
So here's what I came up with. First place, Chase, with a total of 9 points.
Always get 9s.
Mr. 9.
Chase, do you have anything to say about your alleged victory here?
Do you want to dispute the 99? It should be more.
He must audit. I went one by more.
No, I'm happy with the points that I've got as long as I stay in first place.
Spoken like a true sore winner. Second place with an estimated 76 points, Steve Areno. How's it feel to finish well behind your son?
If I had just aligned my answers with his, I'd be in a much different position. I feel very tossed right now.
And there were actually 3 other strangers who I've never met that scored more points than Bill. But Dr. Bill, the way I figure it, he owes Chase 2 points.
I'm going to have to take that to the stewards. I think we need that to have an after competition review.
So it was a really exciting season with Nostradamus, and the feedback I've gotten from the audience has been tremendous. They've really enjoyed it because it lets them feel like they're participating, because I know a lot of people playing the game at home and, they're basically going through our predictions and then doing it themselves. And it's really, I think, going to help our season ending parties and stuff with people being able to talk about, well, I got as many points as Chase, and which is not possible because Chase got 9 points. But I did more than Dr. Bill, because Dr. Bill doesn't realize that you're not wagering anything. So basically it's all plus. There's no minuses, but he managed to get minus 2 points. I still can't figure out how.
Well, that's what I was going to say. What is my total that's going to have 2 subtracted from it? Or do I have 0? Or now I'm negative 2?
That's kind of the point. Yes. We had 0, and then you had a penalty. Well, Chase, apparently, remember that one thing mid-season where Chase basically said somehow your points were.
I don't know. It still feels like even to now there were words put in my mouth, but I'll take your word for it.
Well, remember who we're dealing with, Dr. Bill. Chase is the one that basically on the one show that he missed, basically, or came back and said, check the tape. You told me you would give me extra points if something else happened. And I had to go back with the stewards and look at it and say, well, you did, JB, you did say you'd give Chase whatever. You threw it off. Granted, it was offhanded. You threw it out, but
it's on the tape.
It is right. You said you give him an extra 9 points if this was whatever, something about Verstappen or something. I don't forget. But so, yeah, it's so hopefully we had fun with it, and hopefully you watching at home have enjoyed our attempting to predict the unpredictable in Formula One. So I think
I know during the off season, one thing I'm going to be working a lot on.
Tell me that.
Is understanding betting and wagering, because obviously I have no comprehension of that at all.
I'm with you.
Well,
online courses, I'll send them to you.
In your line of work, it would make me a little nervous if you're sitting there going, Dr. Bill, hey, you got an open heart surgery patient. Yeah, I'm laying 3 to 5 that
we're going to make it.
Applications out of this thing, and it's 2 to 1. He's going to have a reaction to the anesthesia I'm giving him. Yeah. Believe me, I got big money on that one. That would make me a little nervous, Dr. Bill. If you were a little too hip on these odds of stuff and betting odds, I'd be a little nervous to be going into your OR. But thankfully, you're blissfully ignorant about all of these things.
Yeah. I'm working on it.
Chase and Dr. Steve can take advantage of you week after week. So they're not arguing. They're happy. So just stay just the way you are, Dr. Bill. That's what they say. So this is our final show of the regular season, but we've been talking about it. And due to overwhelming popular demand, I think we should have a special season-ending review show. And we'll give out our own awards for drivers for various aspects of Formula One. Because, it seems unfair to end a season without mentioning Sebastian Grosjean, who was not able to finish, of course, because of his horrible accident in Bahrain. And looks like his Formula One career is over. Maybe his racing career will continue somewhere. But, it's people like that. And and we've made fun of Bonato, but I think he deserves a special recognition for his lack of achievement as a team principal this year. And there are many other people I think we should recognize during the course of this season. So I say we come back for a special show. And maybe, Dr. Steve, there's a possibility we could have some fan involvement. We know there's a couple of loyal watchers of the show. And they're all outside of our family because we can't get our family members to watch the show. But but people who are knowledgeable about the sport continue to come up to me and go, "Man, your show is really interesting because it's clear that you guys really don't know what you're talking about." And I say, "Thank you for tuning in to determine that, because you have to listen closely to understand that we don't know what we're talking about." So I think we get through the holidays, and then maybe early January, we come back with a sort of a season-ending wrap-up and award show. What do you guys think?
Yes, I'm all for it.
And maybe we'll have a little bit of an attire thing going on, maybe dressing up for the situation, because I believe we want to end this show and this season on a high note, not this sort of ending, right? What do you guys think? Chase, you up for it? I mean, you want to get accolades, right? So are you going to be prepared to give somebody else an award that they did something well? Can you do that? Can you give praise to somebody else besides yourself?
I might have to prepare, but I think it is doable.
We'll hope for a Christmas miracle.
It's because Christmas is a season for you to receive, not to give, correct? Dr. Bill, you can figure out some special awards that you can give. Best safety car
driver, best medical team, best
violation by Grosjean, something like that.
Best drive by best overtake by Grosjean without taking the other guy out. Best pit lane crash by Grosjean. I think he did that once or twice.
These are all nominations. You should show notes.
And we can't call him Crash. Maybe we should call him Flash or Flame now, because Crash is kind of passé for him.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, that's true. And Steve, you can maybe give an award for the Ferrari highlight.
Well, there wouldn't be an award because there weren't any. But we'll figure out something fun for our audience.
Fastest Vettel pit stop.
Oh, today at 3.5. That was pretty impressive.
I was waiting for them to screw it up today. I was just waiting.
Yeah.
So was he.
I don't know what place he ended up finishing at, but I think he had a pretty good drive. He really is good at defending in that Ferrari car. You cannot get past him if he does not want it.
Right. Well, the other thing I thought was exciting too was that Ferrari was able to handle back-to-back pit stops this week without putting the wrong tires on cars. Wasn't that exciting?
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
Shocking.
That was 14th, Chase.
Matter of fact, you saw Alonso had some really strong comments this week about what Mercedes did with Russell. He's sort of under a conspiracy theory. Alonso made it sound like he thinks that was no accident that they did what they did. I was shocked by that. I was shocked that Alonso would say that.
Yeah.
Particularly since he's coming back to sport. But man, maybe he doesn't care. He's a two-time champion. He doesn't care.
Yeah, it's like the heck with you.
And maybe he really believes it. So, all right, listen, any final thoughts as we wrap up the 17 race season? And like I said, with hopefully a final show to come, but for now, this is our sign off. And any final words you want to offer our audience and talk about anything in particular, you have the floor. I'll start with Chase.
Thank you to all the new viewers who found their way in throughout the season. That is very important.
Thank you, Chase, for your participation. You've been by far, most of the fan mail that's come in has been about you. The fact that it's actually coming from your home address is a little suspect, but nevertheless, you took the time to write something nice about yourself, and I think that shows initiative, and we applaud that around here. Overall, your knowledge of the sport is unquestioned. Steve Marino, you must be very proud of Chase and not so much yourself, but go ahead.
Yeah, no, I would agree. It is nice that week to week Chase continues to surprise me with these bits of information that I just don't know where it comes from. But other than that, the opportunity to wake him up at 7:30, 8 o'clock in the morning every week, and he'll peel himself out of bed for it has been great. Good bonding experience. And then all of the fans out there, pulling me over in the grocery store and talking about point standings, and it's just it's been very rewarding. So I appreciate it.
Dr. Bill?
It's been, first of all, thanks to everybody who's been watching and following along the season with us, and all the ins and outs that that Formula One can give you, and all the surprises it can give you. And to the three of you guys, it's been great talking to you just about every week and learning from you and seeing what your insights are into all the different aspects of this sport. And to everybody watching, maybe I have at times underestimated F1, and then I end up getting fooled when you think the season's over and done with, and suddenly all these other mysterious things that you never knew about pop up. So don't underestimate next season, and stick with us, everybody who's been watching.
Yeah, I think those are all great sentiments, and I would echo those as well. And I think it's been fun for me, because there have been people that I've had in my personal or business life that either have stumbled on the show, or I'll mention something about, hey, I got to do a podcast tomorrow. What are you doing podcast on Formula One? Oh man, I'm into Formula One, and suddenly you have conversations with people that I don't know why you wouldn't think they would like Formula One, but it's sort of still this unusual thing when you find somebody who's into it as well, that's living around where we are here in the Northeast. It's kind of exciting. So
yeah,
I really appreciate you guys volunteering to be part of this program. You've put a lot of work into it. You've been very disciplined. I mean, we kid around a lot, but the reality is the show wouldn't be possible without you guys. Otherwise, it'd be me staring at myself. And God forbid people have to look at the beak alone. So thank God the box breaks it up a little bit. So it's been a lot of fun for me. I've enjoyed it, and I want to keep it going. So hopefully we got one more show to do. And then maybe we'll figure out something to do in the off season, because as we know, every day there's something new in Formula One. It's a world sport. It involves the entire globe, basically. There are more people. I think the only sport that has more spectators on a week-to-week basis than Formula One is international soccer. Formula One, I think, is, from a viewership perspective, is like right there with soccer. That's how big this sport is outside the United States.
And then our show.
Our show is up and coming.
Compliments it.
Third worldwide.
Really, it's coming
around there.
Good.
And we do appreciate anybody who's tuned in and watched us any week. We appreciate it. We encourage you all to hit the subscriber button. It doesn't cost you anything, but it helps us to know how many people are watching week to week. And those of you who've been on the receiving end of my email blast with links and stuff and are getting tired of that, just subscribe. Then I won't have to bother you anymore. I won't have to ask you to watch the show. So as we like to say each week, especially now into the holiday season, we hope everybody is safe, has a healthy holiday season with your family. The vaccine for the Pfizer vaccine was approved yesterday and is on its way out the door. And Dr. Bill and Steve both happy about that for different reasons. Steve is a proud Pfizer employee, ladies and gentlemen. He personally has volunteered to take the vaccine several times.
They still won't give it to me.
They want to give him COVID first, then give him the vaccine. That's a little bit of a sticky issue, but they're working on that. Dr. Bill, thank you for all of your medical information. It's been helpful during the year when we've had some issues, and we appreciate your support. So happy holidays, everybody. Be safe, and we will see you soon. Thank you.
Cheers.
Cheers, everybody. All the best.
That's a wrap.